develop the capacity to manufacture some of these items locally. We also had some delightful presentations from partners of this summit, Hans Grohe, Sterling and Wilson, and Grohe Middle East, as well as a presentation on the Marine Drive project from Ajayi Associates. Moving on to today, we have a few interesting items. Our keynote was supposed to be on the fundamentals of real estate, luxury real estate in Africa, by Mr. Shijibomi Ogundele, who is the founder of Sujimoto Constructions. But the organizers have told me he got stuck in China. So the Chinese must be doing something right. We're going to move on to the panel now, and our panel discussion is on current trends and future shifts in the hospitality market. So I'm going to invite the participants for this panel to come on stage now. We'll start with the moderator, Filippo Sona, the Managing Director of Global Hospitality at Drees and Sommer. Thank you. Uzo Oshogwe, the MD and CEO of Afriland Properties. Réda Faceh, the VP Development for Northern and Western Africa, AccorHotels. Ninad Bise, Business Head, International MEP at Sterling and Wilson Limited. Okay, and another participant who is joining, Alexis Janoray, Vice President and Head of Development, Africa and Indian Ocean at AccorHotels.
Okay, I think we're missing one panelist, I believe, which is Nina, probably in the toilet. And, can you hear? Sorry. I have a mic in here. It's not working. This one or this one? Can you hear me? No? Hello?
You want to use this? Here.
Take this. It's okay.
Let's go down back.
Okay. Trust me, we're not going to disappoint you today because I do this all year long, from Hong Kong to Shanghai to Singapore, Thailand, everywhere, Europe. So, and we're going to give you some very interesting facts. Also, a lot of these people, particularly Alexis and Réda, they're very good friends, in industry colleagues, and also we have our friend, Uzo in here. So you will go away from these sessions with very good insights and some very important numbers. But let me give you some facts, because a lot of people talk about the opportunities, but they don't look at the numbers. I'm a number person. That's what I do all day long. I look at the numbers. And I've been coming to Africa doing job project for the last 8 to 10 years, and I'm an advisory board member of the major African conferences for hotel investments. So we talk to investors, owners, government presidents, and so forth. So just to give you an idea or quantify the Africa opportunity, and when I talk about Africa opportunity, I'm going to exclude South Africa and I'm going to exclude North Africa. Why do I say that? Because let's talk about Sub-Saharan Africa, core Africa, and very important, and let's not mix it, because Africa is very big. And when I hear people at different conferences talking about Africa and generalizing, it drives me insane. Each state is different. Even within each state, you have different governorates or jurisdiction. They are different, and you will know if you're African. So, very important not to mix Africa. So, what happened in Ghana is not the same as what happened in Kenya. Just to be 100% clear on this. Let me give you some statistics about our sector, which include also what the previous speaker is supposed to say, is stuck in China, the one-stop shop. And in 2017, tourism have grown 7.1%. Arrivals. Very important, why this is a big number, because if you look globally, there is not many continents that actually grow at this kind of pace. They're all sub-5. Africa, sub-Sahara, again, forget South Africa, forget North Africa, 7.1% growth. The domestic tourism is growing faster than the inbound one. So when you develop property, watch it. Do not underestimate the spending power of domestic African, local. So Ghanaians in Ghana. Don't try to look at European in there. So if you develop in Ghana, consider first the Ghanaians people, tourists. Then think about the inbound market. The staycation effect is growing faster than the inbound business. Since the introduction of Airbnb or these kind of tools, the short-term rentals versus hotel is growing faster. So when you develop mixed-use schemes, watch your residential component and talk to your hotel operator or what solution they have to incorporate it, to do one thing, make more money per square meter from a selling price. And we're going to hear very soon from Huzo. She's an expert in real estate, in particular residential. So she's going to give us some insights into this. And just to give you an idea, hotels growing at 8.7%, short-term rentals, business model 12%, growing faster than the hotels. Out of 1.24 billion people in population, similar population, just short of China and India, currently in Africa, I have to include North and South in these statistics, only 335 million people have access to internet. So very important when we're talking about technology. Out of 196 million population in Nigeria, only 267,000 have a credit card. So always look at the number when you're developing real estate and how you're going to reach your audience. Very important. Now, of the internet access, the 330 million, Nigeria has 90, is number one with 91 million. Second is Egypt, third is Kenya, fourth is South Africa. Number 7 is Uganda with 11 million internet access users. Ghana sits between 9th and 10th position with 10.1 million internet users. In Ghana, there are 4.9 million Facebook accounts. Why these statistics are very important? Because when you do real estate, social media is one of the fastest growing tools for selling real estate or getting people to know. So if you know there are 4.9 million, these guys, they are one of the largest hotel companies in the world. They go global distributions, a global reach. So they know a thing about reaching people and internet. So we will hear from them very soon. Then what else? Let's look at more statistics. In Sub-Africa has 5,000 hotels. How does it compare to India and to China? Very important. Africa has the same, almost the same population of these countries. So nothing to envy, nothing to take from. So it is positioned to lead the planet in the next 50 years. China has 2.5 million rooms compared to 525,000 in Africa. India, 262,000. So Africa has more rooms than India alone. So very important again, This is quantify the African opportunity, because people talk about opportunity, but let's put the numbers. Number speaks, anything else don't count. Very, very important. Now, there is another very important statistics that we need to consider. Out of all the sub-Saharan countries, to end of August 2018, there were only 7 cities, that grow the performance of the market for the hospitality business. Accra, Lagos, Abidjan, Addis Ababa, Nairobi is the main ones that grow. Accra grew 1% more in revenue per available room, which is the proxy used to monitor the growth of the business. Why is it important for all of you suppliers? Because if the market grows, there is more projects. In fact, if we're talking about pipeline, this is another very important piece of statistics, is out of all the projects coming up in sub-Saharan Africa, we are talking almost 50,000 rooms being developed, and the top 5 hotel companies in the world, including our friend from Accor, 36% of their project pipeline is on site, is being built. Very important one. Hilton, 55%, Marriott, 49%, Radisson, 62%. So if you do an average, it's about 58. So it means that out of the 50,000 rooms of projects, 58% of these are under construction. This is your business development. This is what you sell in your products. This is how you're making money. And so this is quantify the African opportunities, you know, and in terms of pipeline growth, number of physical projects, not just room, Ghana is on the top 14th country. Is number 14th, actually, of these 50,000. Nigeria being number 2, Ethiopia being number 4th. Number 1 is Egypt. So, as an overall. So, having said all of this, you see the numbers are very important. This is quantify the African opportunity. Last but not least, trends is, don't forget the Chinese. That is the one inbound market that, in my opinion, are growing faster than any other inbound market into Africa, than Europe, Middle East, and Asia Pacific. So watch it. To cater for these people, there are certain assets that needs to be developed. There are certain ways of approaching these guys. WhatsApp don't work, WeChat. Google don't work, you have to use other things. So it's understanding how to reach these guys. Having said this, now I turn to these guys, which are the star of the show. And considering another important piece of information, the growth of the middle class in Africa is phenomenal. The wealth of the middle class in Africa is growing faster than the top end of what do you see as the next products that the market really needed in terms of asset, hospitality asset, all part of a mixed use? You know, this new generation of middle class traveler needs. And let me start with you, Alexis. You know, what do you think?
Well, no, definitely. I think if we look at the hospitality market for Accor today in Africa, and I'm going to talk about today before talking about the future. Even today, actually, our customer base is very African. I think we've got roughly 60% of our customer base that is African. So it doesn't mean it's local. It could be mainly regional. So I think today it's clearly as part of Accor strategy to try to, of course, customize I'm not going to say our products, but try to customize our communication just to reflect this observation. I think in the future it's going to be even more. I mean, we all know that a big chunk of the economic growth of Africa is going to come from the growth of the middle class, and I think we need to be we need to come up with products that are much more adapted to the growing middle class, and I think this comes up to mainly some market segments, being the economy and the mid-scale segments that I believe are the ones that have the biggest potential to grow in the continent, because in terms of product, price positioning, I think they're just perfectly matching the needs of the African clientele.
On that subject, do you want to give a snapshot of what Accor is doing, particularly on the fact that you guys really believe in Africa, and this new fund that's been created, has been announced? Do you want to give a bit of?
Sure, I'm happy to say. I mean, just to give you an overview, I mean, Accor, well, we can claim again that we're the #1 operator in Africa, and that's the case since a few weeks, and since we've closed the Mozambique acquisition. So today we've got, trying to remember the numbers on top of my mind because they change every day. We've got roughly 26,500 rooms in the continent, 23 countries, and more or less 150 hotels. Quite a big historical presence in North Africa, in West Africa, but I think lately there's been a big push from Accor to build a global presence in what we call the key destinations in the continent. Accra being clearly one of them. There's a lot of initiatives at Accor, and I think lately it's been a bit difficult, so sometimes just to follow everything. But I mean, there's three ways for us to grow in Africa, and I think we're the unique hotel operator that actually comes up with these three pillars. Of course, the first one is to continue to sign hotel management agreements with third-party owners. All operators do it, and I think all operators do it quite well. Second pillar of our growth has been acquisitions, and we've closed this year, I think, 2 acquisitions that make a lot of sense for Africa. The first one being Mentis, which is a small boutique-style South African group with quite a strong footprint in South Africa and quite a strong awareness. And the second one, of course, Mozambique, which is, of course, not purely an African deal, but it's a deal that makes a lot of sense for Africa, because these guys present in Africa is big. They've got a good pipeline in Africa, and I believe that they have actually, for a lot of development opportunity, the right product and the right flexibility. Third pillar of our development is so there's been a big announcement made at the end of July to set up an investment vehicle and an investment fund, which for now is a JV between AccorHotels and Qatar Hospitality for a $500 million equity fund. So which means in terms of investment capacity, we're talking about slightly more than $1 billion if you include some debt and potential co-investors. This initiative, I think there's two reasons behind this initiative. Until recently, Accor was still an operator owner. We've sold most of our real estate and our propco in Europe and in major markets. But I think Accor has always has this DNA and this experience of being a hotel owner and hotel operator. And the reality is that in some of the key markets worldwide where today we have very, very strong leading positions, these are markets where we have invested at some point. It's the case in Brazil. It's the case in Morocco, and Réda will be able to talk a little bit about it. But in Morocco, I'm not going to say we hold the market, but I mean, we've got nearly 40%. So that's the first point. The second point, we realize that Africa is a mix of two things. Africa, it's of course a lot of opportunities, and I think all the numbers that Filippo presented clearly show that the opportunity is there. But it's also a land of challenges. And how do you bridge the gap between these opportunities and these challenges? And we've believed that actually having this investment vehicle to be able to develop hotels that of course will be managed by Accor is a good way actually to answer to some of the challenges being to raise the funds, being to raise the debt, to raise debt at a decent cost, because the reality is that there's a lot of projects in Africa where the cost of debt is just killing the returns and the viability of the project. So that's the first point. And secondly, by having an investment team with a strong expertise in delivering projects, we also believe that we bridge another gap that can come to sometimes a lack of experience of some developers to specifically execute and deliver this asset class.
Building upon what you just said, that basically is the fact that obviously there's a lot of opportunity but there is a lot of challenges, particularly in the financing part. And your $1 billion fund will support the growth of the hospitality industry and of a core footprint in Africa. But I want to come to Uzo and talking about one part that I've seen a lot of developers that do mixed-use development and that have a large residential component, and to maximize return on investment, they using the brand of a hotel to create a branded residences to achieve a higher return on investment and selling it faster. What's your thought into this business model, and does this really help in a mixed-use development? From a residential point of view also, what's your views?
Let me use that. Sorry. Hello, everybody. I think with branded residences, we have opportunities in Africa, especially in Nigeria. If you throw your thoughts back to when we had the first true branded residence in Manhattan, I think that was Sherry, Netherlands. I think that was in 1927, 91 years ago. And you look at where we are. I will just put to Nigeria because that's where I'm from, and look at what do we have in Nigeria when we actually start talking about branded residency. We don't have much. So the opportunities are there. On whether the model makes sense, I think it does, because as Africans, we like things that are prestigious, and that is what branded residency actually brings to play. Apart from the idea of being prestigious, there's also the issue of security, which is very important in Nigeria. So when you put the two together, you have a residence that is branded. Say, for instance, you have the Transcorp Hilton residence, and you are sure that you are secure, and your investment is also secure. That puts you on a different level. And if I just brief you very, very quickly on a plan we had, or we still have, for my sister company, Transcorp Hilton. One of the projects that we have in the pipeline is to have branded residence. So it's actually developed by Transcorp, but operated by Hilton. And I think the appetite is there. Because I know lots of people are here today, and they're thinking about where the opportunities are, what the challenges are. There are challenges, but where you have challenges, we also know you have opportunities as well. And in Nigeria, that is one area that makes sense. And as for the mixed use, yeah, you find out that because of the challenges we have with transportation, logistics and all of that, traffic jam, people are beginning to think around having like a work-play environment whereby I'm living, say for instance, 10 minutes away from where I work. Because in situations you have affordability where people commute to work from really far away, and then your work-life balance becomes a challenge. So that is something that, or you have people who come into the city, they live in the city from Monday to Friday and then go back to their country homes over the weekend. So this type of concept is something that I think is required, that is needed, because the business district is kind of saturated and very expensive. So if you were to come, say for instance, I'm sure all of you here must have heard about the Atlantic City. There's enough opportunities for us to actually have such developments in the country. Yeah, I know I'm talking about Nigeria, but like I said, the opportunity is great. The challenges, like my colleague actually said, are there, but we're surpassing those challenges. And the opportunity, you can't even begin to estimate what they are like. Thank you.
Let me ask you one question about, particularly on the residential market, and also in the cases where you have residential, components. And the question I have, and we have a lot of supply in the room, how much is the consumer sensitive to the finishes of the unit, of the quality of the marble, the quality of, the look and feel, Do you see a trend? Do you see people more with the good quality product, more inclined to pay more? Or what's your feedback? Consider you are an expert on this.
I think what you've just said is spot on. I remember when I came back to Nigeria, like a few years back, and you actually go out to look for a property to buy. The finishing wasn't great. But many years on, people are beginning to appreciate the importance of finishings on your property, and they are willing to pay a whole lot more. And like you mentioned, when you actually, the first question you asked was about the growing middle class. The millennials are not settling for less. Well, they are well-traveled. They go out there in other countries, other developed countries. They like what they see. It's like, this hotel is amazing. We all like good things, and this younger generation are not settling for less. They work hard, they'll pay more to get what they like. Everybody wants to, you want to be reckoned with something good, and I think that is something the developers are beginning to catch on. You pay a little bit more, and you get the best that you want. We have some of our vendors and some of our contractors here, and they already know what type of taste. The Transcorp Hotel in Abuja just completed their upgrade and renovation. You can see the difference. We have some of the contractors like NIDA sitting right there, and they know the type of quality that we want. We pay more to get the best. So the appetite is there. We're not going to accept low quality products, because that's not what we want. And the lifespan for low quality products does not make sense. So in the long run, you end up paying more in fixing things that don't look right. So like I said, the middle class is growing, the millennials are smarter, they're working hard to make their money, and they want the best for their money. Thank you.
I'm gonna build upon this fact about quality, and particularly in the context of hospitality, which I would include hotels and the branded resident component, or the service apartment component, again, called extended stay product. And turn to Ninad, which is, these guys are expert, We do about 300 projects a year worldwide in hospitality as project manager, MEP, and so forth. And quite often, people underestimate the fact that 43% of the cost of a hotel is MEP. 43 to 45, depending on the size of the structure. And very little attention is put into these kind of, statistics. So I want to turn into that. Now, we heard from our friend Uzo about the sensitivity of this millennial. They are very keen in finding the right product, a product they've seen everywhere, and that is really reflecting what they need and want. What's your experience, and where do you see the trends going into the hospitality industry in sub-Saharan Africa?
Yeah, she is absolutely right. As you said, the people work hard. They want the best out of their money. And when it comes to the experience in hotels or branded residences or places like that, the customers, who's a major stakeholder, his experience of the property, and his experience is divided into two parts. One is his feeling of the safety, as she said, and the feeling of the luxury. And the knowledge of the customer in terms of the finishing not only in terms of interiors, the carpet finishes or the door finishes, they are sensitive towards what they feel, whether you get a shower, hot water in the shower within 5-6 seconds, whether your air condition is working uniformly, whether the lighting in the room is spot on, and entire experiences. Now, we are all staying in this hotel probably, and you can see the quality product, what they can deliver, what our experience can feel. Now, this is what MEP, as I said earlier, is like is like organs in the body. They may not be seen on the facade of the building, but they are the ones who are making these experiences possible. One other aspect I would like to touch upon is the fire life safety. We know the branded hotels, the Accors and Marriotts and Hiltons, they all get a premium. And a major reason for the premium is the assurity that this building is fire safe, assurity that this building is security safe. We have done projects in Africa where security is a very, very paramount subject, where there are things which are unheard in China and India, like there is an infrared camera network, there's a imaginary line boundary, there are softwares by which you can imagine intruders coming into the building. There are 2 or 3 perimeters for securities now in buildings in Africa. We have done a Sheraton in Conakry, where there's a 3-perimeter security because of the current environment of the risk. So all that brings a lot of feeling of not only a luxury, what customer wants, he also gets a feeling that this is a fire safe, this is a human safe place, and he pays for it. So technology, MEP, plays a major role in building this feeling in the customers, and that is what the money comes from. If you go for a branded hotels in, let's say, India, or even in Europe, you get around $100, $130. In Africa, people are charging $300, $400. The cost is high, but people pay for it because all this is built into the quality hotels.
But let me pose a question, Steven Sakur style, the hard talk from BBC guy. Yeah. They always ask the tough questions, but it's all well said. And we heard from Musa saying, this millennium, they want the quality, but quite often, I get clients, they ask me one question, I want value engineering, meaning you need to cut costs, my friend, because I don't make the money. So let me go into this. In today's market, and we have people like Accor, they've got manuals for everything on doing proper brand standard, how to do it in the right way. And but nowadays, does it really matter to the owners, or what is the trend? Whether the marble is from Italy, Turkey, or Honolulu, I don't know, or China, let's give a bit of a truth in here, what's the reality out there? And then how we really deliver in the right quality that this audience wants.
Yeah, I can talk from MEP perspective. The one aspect I talked about, the safety, security, the fire safety, fire life safety, and the luxury. The other aspect which matters to the owners in MEP is the efficiency. Thanks for giving a sub-question on that. And the really high-quality MEP makes your building much more energy sustainable than normal buildings. You cannot cut corners into the efficiency of your air conditioning machines, into the electrical systems you are choosing, and so on and so forth. So the cost is there, but those are essential part of your payback period is always improved when you are investing into much efficient machinery than going for a cheaper machinery, which ultimately gives you much more operating trouble. I trust all the operators will agree. The bigger concern for them is always the operating cost rather than the capital cost. Capital cost is a one-time cost, but operating cost, if they don't get it right, the properties won't make success.
Moving on from this concept of, catering for this millennial, this middle class, the growing sub-Saharan African business. The question I have, and also in the context of appealing to the audience in terms of product or what they want, and finishes or what they want to expect in the units. And I'm moving on to Réda and asking one question is, there is the general, and the growth of staycation, so the domestic tourism. What's your views on the argument of local African brands versus an international brand? So the kind of an Azalea hotel versus an Accor hotel. What's your argument to that? What would you say to them?
Thank you. First of all, Azalai has done a great work on the domestic market because they have designed perfect hotels to answer the domestic market. But from my point of view, the right answer is a mix between the local habits, the local customs, but also the international standards. And when we study the Ibis brand, it's a fantastic success story in Africa because it's combined the international standard with the perfect knowledge of the domestic market. And you're right, there is a fantastic growth on the middle class market. And for me, there is many trends to answer to that. The first one is the eco segment with the Ibis, which is perfect answer. The second one is the extended stay, because the domestic market need more space. They have another family structure, more kids than Europe. That's why they need more space to live at the hotel. And during the weekend, they can welcome their family. The third trend is, for me, the lifestyle. Because now, and especially on the domestic market, we need to have a wow effect by putting inside the hotel, inside the guest experience, more interior design. And it's a big challenge. And the last trend that we have seen in Africa is the branded residential that you are talking about. Why? Because it can be a fantastic balance, the risk of return on profitability. And that's why we have developed many projects in branded residential. We have started in Morocco with 3 projects with Fairmont, hotels and branded residential. Just to make a small focus on the branded residential, because it's completely different from the extended stay. The branded residential, you develop villas or apartments to sell to private owners, and these private owners can use their private home directly, or they can choose for some period or for the whole year to put their home on the rental assets managed by the hotel operator. And this trend have a fantastic growth in Africa. And we can study branded residential from 4-star hotels to luxury hotels. There are very big flexibility on that.
The question I have, and I'm going to go into specific, particularly building upon, again, the concept of branded residential, which is purely selling the units with the brand and the services of a hotel company or hotel brand. 2 years ago, I was involved into a global study on what drives the premium. So if the highest price for, let's say, an apartment in the middle of Lagos is, $3,000, I don't know, per square meter, I don't know, I'm guessing, I don't know. $1,000 per square meter, how do you increase this $1,000 more? So we were involved in a massive study worldwide, looking at all the major projects and what drivers, from the architect to the finishes, to the suppliers, to the interior designers, the location, the branding, and everything. And you get premium of 46% over and above the highest price in the market. So let's say over the $1,000. The question I have for both Réda and Uzo, do you think that we will see in the market, in the key hubs, Sub-Saharan Africa, these kind of premiums going forward or in the future?
For sure. When we have a branded residential approach, you have a premium due to the awareness of the brand. Sorry, I don't have some figures in Sub-Saharan Africa because we have started firstly with North Africa with the 3 Fairmont projects in Marrakesh, in Agadir, and in Rabat. But from our first return on experience on this market, we have seen that with a branded residential approach, we can increase by 15 to 20% at least the premium rate just with a very important and very strong awareness of the brand. And of course, we think that there is a very major growth area in Africa, Accra, Lagos, Abidjan. We have many cities that we have targeted, and there is a market for that, I think.
Yeah, I think there is a market for that, because if you just look at say, block of apartments built on some specific roads in, say, Ikoyi, just having that apartment on that street promotes the cost. It's already premium. So you just imagine if I was to put, say, a Hilton on that apartment.
Or Sofitel. Well, they,
Or a Accor. It would also put an additional premium on it. So the market is there. You know, people, the well-to-do, are prepared to pay for something that separates them from the masses. Sadly to say, but that's the reality. So yes, the market is there.
the good news for the supply in the room, and I'm coming to Alexis, please.
Sorry. No, I just wanted to add a comment on that. I think it's also a question of supply demand. I mean, of course, any new branded residential development that will come into the market, there will be the first commer's advantage, and certainly a big premium linked to that. Through the acquisition of Fairmont Raffles, Accor has inherited from a very, very big experience in developing branded residences. FRHI was one of the pioneers. And you can see in some markets, like in the Philippines, like Indonesia, they've reached premiums against the market of up to 40 or 50%. So I think this, of course, it's something new coming in the market and justify a bigger premium. My view is that at some point, of course, if this becomes a little bit the trend, there will still be a premium, and I believe there will still be a premium just because as opposed to any residential development, we're offering something different. We're offering a value proposal that is higher. You get access to the hotel, you get access to the services of the hotel, and you have the possibility to put your flat back into a rental pool, which is much more easier than putting it on the Airbnb, as we all know. So I think there will always be that premium. With that premium in the long term, be 10, 15, 20%, that may be what trend would be. But I still believe that in the short term, there's a massive potential, and especially in your country, in Nigeria, just because of the nature just because of the presence of a lot of multimillionaires individuals, quite a significant diaspora that would be looking to invest. So I believe strongly in residential development in Nigeria. Just a shame you've chosen the wrong partner to do that, but something we can discuss afterwards.
What I was saying earlier is, from a supplier point of view, what came out from the study, which will be very interesting to any of you that are suppliers, is that in these schemes where premiums were between 35 and 43% over and above, so it means that the clients will get more money out of the sale of unit, which increase your internal rate of return, is from the first proposal to the second revised proposal, they were only discounted by 6.7%. So imagine you send in a quote for $1 million, so you only discount 6.7%, when traditionally they were discounting up to 11% from the original quote on, I'm talking fit out now. I don't talk about cement or steel or that. I'm talking the finishes of units. So it worked very well. So, and when you're approaching project as well, finding out what kind of selling prices they have, whether they're able to have a premium, will help you in try to achieve the best profitability over your proposals. So this came out, and it was a global study. We went all over. US had the highest impact, obviously, but because branded residences in EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, there are not that many compared to Asia Pacific and North and South America. But it was a very interesting point of view, see from a supplier point of view, not only from a developer point of view. Moving on another topic about technology. You heard it before, 336 million internet users in sub-Saharan Africa. And Ghana alone, 4.9 million Facebook accounts, no user accounts. Now, technology is one of the main disruptors of our industry now. Technology also intended as the internet, the Amazon of this day, the Google of this day, they want to enter our market space from a booking point of view. Or Airbnb, they shaping the real estate and also the operation of this. And this is a question for Alexis. Where do you see technology shaping the industry? What do you see the future of technology? Considering also that in Nigeria you can book hotels with phone credits, which is I cannot do in London. This is the funny things, What do you think about that?
Again, I'm not the expert within Accor to talk about this subject, but I'd like to mention maybe two initiatives that Accor has taken in Africa, which I believe are also trying to answer the challenge of disruption and technology disruption in the market. The first one is mobile banking, and that's also linked to one of the comments I was making earlier, that 60% of our customer base is actually African. So we're working on payment solutions linked to mobile banking, which is a subject on which clearly Africa has been very innovative and is a pioneer. And the other one is we've launched a lifestyle platform called My Chic Africa, which is, of course, the whole purpose is to be much more Africa-centric and, of course, generate some flow, some traffic, towards our website, but having a content that is really dedicated to African trends, lifestyle trends, and this kind of thing. So that would be the two initiatives I would think of in terms of how we are trying to use technology and adapt specifically to Africa.
Okay, like you just mentioned, technology is a major disruptor in all industries. Real estate, hotel business is not an exception. So to stand aside and pretend like it's not going to happen would be a big mistake for any business. And it's made it so, its technology has made it so easy to connect people to businesses and services. And the infrastructure on ground is easy. You don't even have to go and get developers and pay them huge amounts of money. You can actually make use of your open API and just get access to those public databases and put together systems that makes things easier for your customers to access your website, to book and check in, and to, program anything in their rooms. It's just something that everybody, not just real estate, have to embrace. The technology is not going away. It keeps evolving. So you need to go chasing after it in order to stay in business.
Yeah, apart from this, I would like to add here, technology is not only about the IT part for the booking and reservations and stuff. Technology is actually disrupting even the normal operations. I can give an example. Nowadays, we are using a temperature sensor in the room for the air conditioning, which is having a sensor which can sense the occupancy of the person in the room. And that software can be integrated with the hotel operations, where hotel housekeeping manager can keep a tab on what time has been spent by what housekeeping staff in which room. So then all the AI algorithms are coming in picture, where they're in the management efficiency of the hotels are going much, much better than what they were previously. So it is just not a booking and reservations part of it. It is internally changing the whole dynamics of MEP and operations efficiency.
Is anybody in the room from Honeywell? Nobody from Honeywell? Just to give you a piece of statistic on the hospitality industry, Honeywell is one of the major suppliers of building systems, room temperature control,
yes.
And so forth. What is interesting, what transpires is that only 17% of those hotels that have a building system supplied by Honeywell, for example, not because it's Honeywell, it's because they don't do enough training to the staff, they only utilize up to 70% of the capability of the software. So it means that from a maintenance point of view, we are failing to fully utilize what we're buying in the hotel business in order to maintain our asset for the owners in the right conditions. This is a question of training. Who is to blame with? This is not the place and the time. But remember this, only 17% of the people that go an annual building system utilize less than 80% of the capability of the software for the building system. It's mainly an engineering, building system. Okay, since we've been talking a lot, are there any questions? Anybody want to ask any question to the panelists? Don't be shy, we don't bite. Front.
Hi, thank you to all the panelists. I'm from Ajay & Associates, and I have a general question that's related to technology, incidentally. There are a lot of indicators about Africa and the growth factors. To what extent are we looking at the hotel industry leapfrogging or enabling or leveraging the leapfrog effect? So mobile is a huge indicator in terms of number of, smartphones available. How can we talk about customization of hotels by the user? Is that technology available? So if I'm going to book a hotel, can I book and customize and create a suite that's to my liking, so to speak? Are those conversations? I mean, I think from an Africa perspective, there are opportunities there relative to our mobile use, MTN, and so on. There are a lot of case studies about leapfrog effect in Africa, and how can we leverage this?
I just want to make sure I've understood the question correctly. It's how do we use the technology to create a customized experience for our guests, right? I think it's a very good point, and it's actually something Accor has been working very strongly over the last few years, saying, well, we've got a massive database, because we've got, 45 million loyalty card holders, and we have information of them. We know, they are direct clients of us. They're not going through Booking or another platform. So we've got the data on them. How can we use it? How can we use it to actually create a better experience for the client, a better customized experience? So that's something we're working on, with the idea, of course, to create a database. And if you stay tomorrow in the Mozambique here in Accra, and the week after you're going to the Sofitel in Paris, they should be able to use some of the information that was collected from the hotel here to understand a bit better your needs, your requests, and anticipate, of course, and create a better experience. Yeah.
For the hotel industry, is the subject is within the umbrella of artificial intelligence. It's a very big subject, but we have a big problem in the hospitality industry. We don't have enough money to keep up with the pace. Accor is probably one of the most innovative companies that you find today in the market, because they've got an organization behind. It's a huge machines. These guys are very big. But I'll give you one statistics. If you compare a hotel company, any one of the top 5, with the likes of Expedia Group or Booking.com, in 2017, in EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, spent $5 billion in marketing, out of which 73% was on developing algorithms. What does it mean? The moment you book in somewhere, they know your preferences, what you like, what type of hotel, what kind of facilities, what type of rooms, what package, bed and breakfast, dinner, bed and breakfast, and so forth. So, and this capture all this, and next time you go in there, and you choose the same city, let's say Accra, automatically in the choices they're gonna come up will be tailor-made to what you need, not necessarily to the cheapest. Just remember this one, not necessarily to the cheapest. This put pressure on these guys in using a lot of scientific and brainy people to try to price product correctly. Because for you as a consumer, it will mean that in any given destination, the choices that will appear online will not necessarily be listed by cheapest to the most expensive or vice versa. It's purely on your history online. That's why blockchain is a big subject now. It's massive. But in answer to your question, the biggest competitor that the hotel industry will have, hospitality industry, including OTAs like Expedia and so forth, is telephone companies. If you are a supplier, or if you are like a service provider like us, how do I sell my services or project management from my Shanghai, Beijing office? WeChat. We don't sell via our website. Chinese don't go to website. Chinese read WeChat more than they go to website or Twitter or Facebook. WeChat or QQ, which is another system for transferring or calling, is incredible. If you want to sell product in China, tie it up with WeChat and do WeChat campaigns. You can do anything, picture, videos, and everything. And it reaches the consumer. And in Nigeria, you can book hotels with phone credits, not via the phone, with the bill of the phone. I cannot do that in London. So Africa is going to be one of the first markets on technology, big time. Any more questions? Yes.
Hello, good morning. We were talking about the growth of the hotel chains, so the top 5 that you mentioned. Do you also have figures on in which level of the segmentation they're working on? I mean, upscale or upper scale part of the hotel chains? Because obviously there's a big difference between the different segmentations.
Yes. I would say that 80% of the pipeline is up to 4-star. The remaining is the top-end 5-star-ish. Again, I don't want to talk star rating because star rating is very misleading. 5-star hotel in Nigeria is totally different, one in Mozambique on that. Let's talk about, the brand. So in terms of Accor, it's more up to Novotel, Mercure, Ibis, and that than Fairmont or Raffles, would you say, out of the whole Africa? Up to Pullman, yeah, Movenpick. Yeah, as opposed to Fairmont or Raffles, It's up to this level rather than the very top brands. Because there is not enough city that can sustain this development. We're talking $1 million per room development cost. That is just a figure proxy. So there's not many markets that can take yet these kind of assets. If there are no more questions, please join me. Oh, there's one more question, sorry.
Yeah, I heard that you had made a comment about the fund that was set up, almost like $1 billion fund. And I wasn't too sure whether that was specifically tailored to what the company itself intends to do going in the future, or whether there are some specific ideas about cooperating with owners in the various different cities in Africa to leverage the funds that they have. I'm not sure whether it's an internally generated fund for their own projects, or maybe cooperative work and joint projects that can be done for the additional pipelines that they have in the future.
Talk about your fund.
Sorry, the question is to
where are you going to invest the money of the fund?
Okay, I think in investment is going to go, in terms of asset class, it's going to go towards mainly mid-scale and eco projects, ideally in combo, and that's something Accor has been quite successful in doing, Ibis and Novotel together. Why? Because that's definitely the market segment where we see the biggest potential. Secondly, it's the one that brings also the right returns for a financial investor who's looking at an exit after 5 to 7 years of investment. And you get a lot of efficiencies in terms of construction and operations. So I think that's going to be the key asset class. And then in terms of location, there's going to be a few geographies of focus, a few key destinations. Nigeria, Accra would be on the target. East Africa, Southern Africa. A bit of West Africa, but Accor's presence is quite important in these markets. Yeah.
In the essence of time, unfortunately, we have to close, and I thank to be a wonderful audience for being calm and asking a lot of questions. But above all, please join me in thanking the panelists and their contribution to this session. Thank you.